Hi everyone, I'm Kieran Taylor.
I'm Martin Welsh.
I'm Emma Murison.
And welcome once again to another episode of Those Pension Guys. And we thought to ourselves today, you know what? The world's a bit of a depressing place at the moment, isn't it? Let's get the good vibes going. Let's speak about some of the great case studies of the past, the great work that we've done with clients. And hopefully we can give you a good idea and a spin of what it is that we do and why we think we add value. So I'll tell you what, Emma, you can be the lead interviewer today.
Yeah.
Ask away.
I'm excited.
What have you got for us?
So, we've got such a diverse range of clients, loads of different scenarios and situations and plenty of stories from over the years as well. Mm-hmm. So we thought, why not share some of those? So I thought it'd be fun if we start with your hardest clients to onboard.
Oh God, go on then. You know what? Actually, I'm slightly throwing him under the bus here, but I know he would like to be okay about it. The hardest client I onboarded was my father-in-law. Now, on paper, you would think, well, new family and everything, it should be fine. Buy into it. No. He started the conversation by saying, Kieran, I am the most skeptical man in the UK. His words, most skeptical man in the UK about financial advice. Now, he unfortunately, like many other people, I would say in the late 80s, early 90s, had a bad experience with a financial advisor. And he just kind of never let that go. Well, unfortunately, that's not the first time we've heard that, is it? No. That's just the way perhaps the industry was back then. But spoke about loads of different things and ways that I could tangibly help him. And I remember when he signed the form, he gritted his teeth almost of right, okay. But for the first 2 years of the relationship, now things were going really well, markets were good, tax saved and everything. And he'd say, yeah, but you could just be making that up. And I was like, what are you talking about? He's like, well, it's just numbers, is it? You could just be putting any old nonsense in front of me and I just have to believe you. Talk about being cynical. It's like, you're accusing me of lying, basically.
You're welcome.
Yeah,
exactly. Son-in-law.
Yeah, when they 1,000,000% return, there you go. And it was funny, actually, when I started out in the industry and I told him this what I was going to be doing, he had said, well done, Kieran. You just joined the profession. You're going to be the second most hated man in Britain, only after parking attendants. And I thought, Jesus, Brian, give me a go here. But you know what's really interesting is now we've worked together for 9 years. And he was one of these guys beforehand. He liked to try and do things himself. He's just a proud guy and an astute guy as well. I'll absolutely give him credit for that. But he was one of these that had said, you know what, Kieran, I wish I'd met you years ago. Because actually, I'd be so much better off. I would have been in a much better financial position. And the absolute brilliant moment, you were right, I was wrong. And I have to admit, in my petty side, did say, go repeat that again. Yeah, you were right, I was wrong. And it's really gratifying as well to sort of change someone's perception about advice as well, for them to genuinely feel like, okay, yeah, that was a bad experience. That maybe was a bad person, but actually, the advice is there for the good. Mm-hmm. So if you can turn around the quote-unquote most skeptical man in Britain,
you're doing pretty good.
I'd say you're doing pretty good.
Fair play.
Happy with that.
That's funny. I was reflecting as well when you're speaking about that on there's a number of clients, hardest client to onboard, if you want to put it like that. There's a number of them because some people are hard work at times. Yeah. And the one that came to my mind was, I consider him a friend now. Not only is he a client, he's a friend. I know the family really well. So it's turned into a brilliant relationship, an amazing relationship. But I remember at the time, there was a large final salary pension that we were considering transferring. But up to that point, he had never spoke to a financial advisor in his life. He had never engaged with one. He had never taken advice. And truth being told, this is somebody in their 60s, early 60s. So they had just built up a really good level of wealth, all on their own, never taken advice, never wanting to take advice, and never wanting to pay fees either.
It's what we were stating also as well, to transfer a final salary pension scheme, you have to take regulated advice, don't you? So even if you load it, even if you grit through your teeth at the idea of taking advice, you've got no choice.
That's right. If it's over £30,000, that you must have taken advice to transfer it. So on this occasion, we believed it was the right advice and we were able to go through with it. But I'll always remember, there was a lot of interrogation, if you like, up to that point. But I'll always remember, he said to me, Martin, this will either be the best or the worst decision I've ever made in my life. And it's really humbling that over the years, I keep getting reminded, that was the best decision I ever made in my life. We've funded so much amazing things for him and his family, and he's a pleasure and a delight to work with. But there was that tipping point where it was a lot of work to get over the hurdle, but as soon as we got over it, one of the best relationships that I've got with a client now.
I mean, even to the point, he's taken the team out for lunch as well, hasn't
he? He's so sweet.
Thank
He's
you.
so lovely.
And it's funny, you see him as such this kind of sweet guy, but equally could I imagine him kind of across the table
Oh,
do the
yeah.
interrogation? Like, yes, I could see that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Just a principled
Yeah.
man, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what other sorts of challenges have you come up against with clients?
I suppose one of the hardest ones for me would be when you have to maybe tell clients what they don't want to hear. So for example, I even had a client that asked me the other week then said, so have you ever had to tell someone, Kieran, that they can't retire? And yeah, that was a conversation I had last year actually. And it was a real shame because they were a really lovely couple. Like, it just the kind you can imagine, sitting having a beer, a glass of wine, just really friendly, jovial people, good family people. And due to some health circumstances, decided he wanted to retire early. Now, I think that they kind of made up their mind before they did the maths. And it was one of those where they were really transparent, really honest, gave me a real clear idea of what they were looking to spend, their financial situation, everything. But it's only when we went away and did everything that we had to say, well, actually, the numbers don't stack up.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to explain why, you have to explain the impact. And when you have to tell someone that, someone that's had health scares, that they're going to have to work longer, that there's no joy in that. That's a difficult thing. And I wish we could have done more to help them. I guess the hard thing was that it was kind of a head in the sand moment for them after that. That unfortunately, I can say they ghosted me after that. They just didn't want to hear maybe the bad news.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's easier to walk away rather than maybe address it head on. But that's the job sometimes, I guess.
They say
That's
that the
tough.
easiest thing to do is nothing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Isn't it? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Tricky, but there you go.
What about you? Are there any challenges you've maybe come up
So
against?
probably quite a positive one, actually. There's this clients that I'm thinking of right now. They've got a good level of wealth. They've both got final salary pensions and payments. So they receive enough income into the household that they can live a comfortable lifestyle. But they also have investments that we look after. And, we're doing a really good job, not to pat ourselves on our backs, but like they have grown a huge amount over the years. So now they're faced with sort of the stress and worry of inheritance tax and worries of how much wealth they've got, and it's strange to see that when they used to be living a nice comfortable lifestyle, doing all their holidays, but now they can see this portfolio growing and growing, and they don't need to touch it. We're now having to have those conversations of they're going 5 holidays a year. Do you start booking business class flights, first class flights, go on 10 holidays a year, or start giving some of the money away?
Mm-hmm.
Or do you need to get at peace with actually this wealth is going to keep building? And it's a real strange one, but I've seen that sort of give more stress into their lifestyles and the worry of, I'm worried about inheritance tax, but I don't want to spend anymore because I was brought up as a saver. I wouldn't enjoy spending that much on a flight or more holidays. I don't want to give money away to my daughter because I got nothing. I wasn't given anything when I started out. So it's that real difficult sort of maneuver, if you like, of, well, the wealth can build and we can take the right level of risk. We're taking a more medium risk approach with those clients. But it's giving them that stress and us trying to say to them, like, actually, probably the best thing to do is just spend more money and enjoy it.
And it almost sounds silly of like, oh, how difficult, you've got too much money, you need to spend it. But it really is quite stressful, as you say, to, when you look at how much may end up going to the tax man or through inheritance tax, like that was never what the plan was, and that's a legitimate shock.
Yeah. I think particularly inheritance tax is coming more into the public consciousness now. I think if you asked 5 years ago inheritance tax, people would think, well, that's for oligarchs and millionaires, billionaires, and they should be paying that. Whereas now people are starting to see, wait a minute, my 89-year-old mum, we're going to have to pay inheritance tax on her estate. It's people that consider themselves, I'm a normal person, I'm a working person, we're going to have to pay inheritance tax. So I think we're going to start to see that narrative change a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're seeing that more and more, aren't we?
I think so.
What are some of your favourite things that clients have done at retirement?
Some of our favourite things. This is actually a recent one. It's ironic because we were speaking about it, I think like a month ago or something like that. Remember the Ritz-Carlton cruises?
Oh,
Instagram must have our number. We're getting constantly ads for it. I think my wife's getting them now as well. The bots know.
It's stunning.
And there's a lovely, lovely guy I've been dealing with for a number of years now. And it's funny, he grew up in Torry and he actually said, I remember when it was just a fishing area. So he said, we were constantly thinking of boats and all that kind of thing. He said, I thought my life on a boat would be working on a fishing vessel at the time I worked offshore or something like that. But he said, get this, Kieran. I'm like, Go shut up. I've got a cigar room. I'm going to be doing that. I've got a hot tub on my view. Have a look at this. This is the room I've got. And I'm like, go shut
Do you
up.
want to take us with him?
So jealous. But equally at the same time, I'm so
Well
chuffed.
done,
I'm so chuffed on him.
I know,
Yeah, he is such a lovely guy, and I think he's embracing what I'd say is the Welsh and Taylor way of looking at money. Enjoy it. No, don't be a miser. Don't be the Scrooge McDuck that's swimming in your pond of money and you don't ever do anything with it. Enjoy it. That's the whole point. That's what you should be doing. And probably leading it back to what you'd said, that we're now having those conversations with clients to say, if you are really worried about inheritance tax or whatever,
Spend it, gift it. You know.
Yeah, we could get into the really sexy stuff, the really complicated stuff, or you could just start enjoying your own money more. And I think him and his wife are living it to the max. And as jealous
Good
as
for
I am,
them. Yeah,
sounds
good
I
for
love it.
them.
Yeah.
I think this is the European one. I think he's already booked the Asian one as well.
Unreal.
But
So
no,
good.
good on him. Good on him.
It's funny, I was thinking of my ones, like actually a local company here, Laing's Kitchens and Bathrooms. There's a number of clients that I've had that get to retirement, we're wanting to get a new kitchen, new bathrooms, like what to get set for retirement, home renovations, stuff like that. And it's amazing, they'll say, hey, my tax-free cash, or some of my tax-free cash paid for it. But quite often they'll say the growth paid for it. I actually had one client send me a photo of this beautiful new kitchen saying, thanks for the kitchen, Martin. It cost me nothing, because effectively it was a growth of the portfolio, which of course the market's done. It wasn't just Martin or Welsh and Taylor that had done that. But that's been amazing. Just seeing people, wow, I've got my dream kitchen, I've got my dream bathrooms, my house is all done up. Even clients saying I was able to retire 3-4 years earlier than I planned to. Like for some clients, like that's more time with grandchildren. That's the, unfortunately,
you can't put a price on that.
That's the fittest they'll probably ever be in retirement, is when they first retire, the early stage of retirement.
Yeah.
So that's when it matters the most, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it goes back to what we talk about lifestyle financial planning, is that that's what it is getting what you want, maximizing what you want out of your money. And listen, it might be a material thing, it might be more time with your grandkids, but formulate that, have that as part of your plan so you can do it, because certainly in my opinion anyway, you're only here once. So you're only going to get that one opportunity, so maximize what you can.
And I loved it. One of my clients actually at the start of 2025, he decided to retire early, and I says to him, what's your plans? Have you got any ideas? And he's got bikes, he's got cars, he loves travel, loves his cars. He said, Martin, I'm going to go and buy a convertible Mustang and I'm going to travel Europe. So they didn't even have, a map of a 2-week trip. It was literally, we're going to go for 3 months.
Just go.
And we're going to go here. Then when we're here, we're going to decide where to go to next. I want to drive up the Alps. I want to be on the Autobahn. I want to go to Eastern Europe. I want to do all that. And it's just, I'm going to disappear for 3 months over the summer. It's like, wow.
Don't call me.
Yeah, don't call me. I just thought, wow, like quite right. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's so cool. Have you got any examples of situations where your advice has really helped a client through a difficult situation?
Yeah, I think you're probably at most used to clients, I think, when they're going through some hardship. And often it's when people lose a partner, I would say. Oddly, though, in this example, this was actually someone that he took the lead of the finances, but he'd priced into his models and wouldn't listen to me that I'll die first. I'll be gone before her. So make sure that she's all right and that's fine. And unfortunately, his wife passed. And he was kind of at a loss of like, shit, what do I do now? Not necessarily about pounds and pence and money, but kind of emotionally, like, what do I do? What do I do with all this? Because my plan was based around everything goes to her and the kids. I'm not really thinking about myself, but it's almost going through that education process for us to build out that plan again and say, right, let's look at life again. Because you kind of get that, it's a terrible thing losing someone, but you can almost have to kind of start a new life again. And it was helping him do that, to say, well, okay, well, what is important to you? And even introduce them to a couple of people to say, I know you've discussed travel, you wouldn't really know where to start. Why don't you go and speak to this person? You mentioned one of the places in Asia they want to go to. I actually have a client that's done loads of that stuff. Do you want to put in touch? Yeah, if you wouldn't mind, I'd love to do that. So it was all these little things just for him to feel, okay, yes, you manage my investments and we do tax plan and all that kind of stuff, but there is an emotional support to help me define, well, actually, what is my 2.0 life going to look like? Because when markets are good, and that's fine and everyone's happy, but it's kind of when life throws those difficult situations at you, I think that's when you add a lot of tangible value.
You do, and that is a tough part of this job. Unfortunately, we see clients, we see family members pass away, go into care homes, all those things that we need to be there to support them. And something else I was kind of thinking about there was, we've set up, we talk all the time about investments and pensions. We don't talk very much about protection. So,
No.
there's clients that we've set up protection policies for. It might have been income protection, might be life insurance, etc. And actually, unfortunately, earlier this year, there's a client of mine that was diagnosed with a critical illness. And, it was really bad news, went through a terrible period. She couldn't work for a long period of time. But the beauty was that we had set up a policy years ago. We set this up maybe like 9-10 years ago, that if unfortunately this happened, you're covered for critical, life, etc. And just being able to see that payout come through, and there's very little more that I could really do to support that situation. Unfortunately, you do feel helpless in some ways, but to know that the policy that you set up many years ago actually done exactly what it's designed to do, it took the weight off. You could see that huge sigh of relief when you're sitting with our family, our kids, to say, right, we don't have the financial worries anymore. Now we only need to worry about this bit, and that's unfortunately at times we do have to be there for the clients in the hard times, but with the right policies in place, it can really add some value to them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's surprising actually how much more emotional the job is than just the obvious,
It's funny, isn't it? Because the training, we're doing the exams, whatever. I never trained you to do that.
Mm-hmm.
It'll give you some of the technical competency and the knowledge, but that side is null and void unless you kind of figure that one out the hard way.
Sometimes you're a marriage counsellor and there's a little argument going on between Mr. and Mrs. in the room.
And you see, that's on the rocks. That's not looking good.
How much have you spent? Where's that savings gone?
But yeah, it's not just individuals that we take care of. There's business owners as well.
Mm-hmm.
What are some examples of stories that you've had with business owners?
Yeah, I was actually reflecting on this one just the other day with one of our great business owner clients that we've got. So in this scenario, if I remember rightly, they were sitting with about £1 million in cash. So that sounds like a lot of money. It is a lot of money, but if you're running a certain size of business, that maybe isn't a lot of money. So there's probably businesses out there with a lot more cash than that. But in this scenario, £1 million or so in the business account. And when we looked into, we're helping with investments, personal stuff, pensions. And he says, "Oh, that's just a business. Don't worry about that." And I kind of paused for a moment and said, "Well, what's it look like? What's your cash flow month to month? What's your turnover, profits?" And we looked at it, and there was a good chunk of free cash that, rightly so, they didn't want to take out the business because they'd pay a lot of dividend tax on it, for example. But equally, they wanted to have the money there should the business need it. They might want to buy the premises they're in. They might want to invest in their future. So what we decided to do was there was about £400,000. We went into a corporate unit trust. We invested it into a corporate investment. And actually in 2 years, so yes, the markets go down. Of course, I'm not promising or guaranteeing ups and downs, etc. But in this scenario, 2 years later, £150,000 of profit. So that 400,000 investment was now worth 550,000.
Yeah.
What they chose to do was take the 150,000 out, which was profit, which was growth. They invested a chunk of that into marketing, so they spent it on something that's offsettable. He put £60,000 into his pension, which is corporate tax relief on that as well. And then they used the rest of the money to do up the office. So they'd done up the office, the workshop. They used all that money to improve the working conditions for their employees. And again, like my previous story with the kitchen, sending a photo to say thanks for my kitchen, he was of the impression like, we redone the office, Martin, we got this done, we got that done, thanks so much. Because to him, that money would have just stayed fairly still in a bank account.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, it was at risk, and of course, the markets could have went down.
Yeah.
But in this scenario, that was such a positive story where a business owner was able to benefit from. And actually, they've got like a better staff canteen, they've got extra sort of nicer desks and seats, etc.
Whole workforce benefit.
Yeah. So it's great how they wanted to reinvest in their company and their team.
Yeah, and we've seen it as well when it ties into some benefits to the business and the individual. So we've been fortunate enough, we work with a lot of fishing families as well. And it's interesting the dynamics of how that business works in terms of buying into the boat and paying that off and all that kind of thing. What you find though with the guys as well, depending on what they catch, the price can change massively. So one of the couples I work with is mackerel. It's one of their things. And the price has soared massively with that. Apparently it's due to the Japanese sushi market. Apparently love mackerel. It's become really trendy and really popular now. Now what you'd realise was, Kieran, we've got a hell of a tax problem because don't get me wrong, it's been a good year, but geez, we're going to be paying a hell of a lot of corporation tax. I said, well, you spoke to your accountant about carry forward. No idea what I was talking about. Not a clue. So tell me more. And what we were able to identify was The couple were still paying a small amount into pensions every year, kind of basically the bare minimum, but they had a load of profit. Now, what they were able to do was use the unused allowance of the current tax year and the 3 previous tax years and do that in one go. So what they were able to do is take a load of corporate profit where they thought, I don't fancy paying corporation tax on that, invest it in their pension, so they've essentially got 25% tax relief on top of that, and they were able to fund their retirement. But that's the value of taking advice, by having someone independent and holistically looking at things. Because bless accountants, that for many of them, their job is just, there's your tax return, that's how much you've got to pay, there you go. They don't necessarily look at the whole thing. Us being able to do that and take that outer lens, honestly save them hundreds of thousands of pounds in corporation tax. So when someone asks you, what's the value of financial advice? Potentially hundreds of thousands of pounds, and you just don't know it yet.
I like carry forward cases.
We do like a bit
of So what about if clients don't want to go with your advice?
Yes,
what do you do in that scenario?
and we do see that. So, we've got existing clients or new clients that don't onboard as clients, not taking our advice from the get-go. But, we sometimes see a bit like the head in the sand or something like that, not prioritizing themselves. I'll sometimes say to a client, you need to be selfish. You need to do this and make it about you. So I'm like, I've been really busy with work, I've been busy with family, but actually we agreed to set up a trust. You haven't signed the final paperwork. That trust doesn't exist right now. There's a huge risk, instead of like, let's just take half an hour out, we'll pop down to the solicitor together and we'll just get everything signed, sealed and delivered. So it's little things like that final little step, we've invested so much time and effort into it. Or it might be, we want to do a fund switch, we want to switch into a different market, for whatever reason. And some clients might not want to do that, and we put that advice in place for a reason. We build it as part of the plan. So time and time again, our clients are brilliant and take our advice. And occasionally we do see the ones where actually, we try our best. You can only lead a horse to water. And unfortunately, occasionally, the advice just isn't taken.
Yeah. So I very much take the views. I actually don't mind if it's, say, a new person, a new prospect, we get to the end and it's, for whatever reason, it just won't work for them. That's cool. I actually don't mind that. I would actually rather they come to that acknowledgement before proceeding. The only time I get frustrated, and I'll use that word, is when we do have a client and we have an ongoing relationship and they'll say one thing and do the other. That's what makes life a little bit difficult, because you kind of have to make a commitment from both sides that we're going to see this thing through. Now, equally, it's okay to question the advice. That's fine. It's okay to positively challenge. That's okay. I'm not saying blindly follow everything I've got to say.
Yeah.
But when you get a client, do you get that, Judd? Yeah, I'm going to do that, Kieran, I'll make that happen. You then follow up in a few months' time. It's a bit like what you alluded to, Martin. I never really got around to that. Actually, I changed my mind and I've done this instead. That's when it can become difficult, because you only really get the value from the advice if you take it. I know it sounds really obvious, but
it's that long-term outlook as well. We always get those calls when the markets seriously go down. Like COVID's probably the best example. Worldwide markets down 30% a few of the clients get in touch saying, I just want to take my money out, or I just want to move it into cash. I'm scared, But you never know when the bottom's there. But usually it's when you're asking for those things. It's unlikely to get that much worse, and actually you're going to miss the bounce. So time and time again, there's unfortunately a few clients that have probably gone against our advice and taken the money out and lived with loads of regret. Because actually, if I remember in one scenario, really wanted to take the money out. We tried to say, look, emotions, let's remove that. You're 12 years away from retiring. Leave it invested, allow the markets to recover. They didn't do it. And actually, I think when we done the review, it was like 52% they were worse off by within a 1 year period, because from where the bottom of the market got to the peak of the market in a year's time.
Sold out literally the worst
timing possible. Yeah.
Wow. That's hard to say.
But like what you've said, in those moments of them onboarding as a client, you talk about risk, you talk about portfolios, you talk about how long they've got till retirement. You tell them that the markets, that there's always good and bad days in the market, and they fully accept and understand it. But when things get that bad, no, I'm forgetting everything we spoke about. I'm scared. Take it out.
Yeah, I think the other part of this, and I'm always keen to hit this home with clients. We want to help you, want to do the best for you. What we are not is magicians. I can't turn 100 quid into $1 million next week. Can't do it. There's going to be things that you're going to have to take time. There's going to have to be actions you're going to have to take to get us there as well. I'm in your corner. I'll fight for you. I'll do everything I possibly can, but we are not magicians. That these things are wealth building. takes time, takes a measured approach, and you've got to do your bit as well as Welsh and Taylor doing what we can for you as well.
Mm-hmm.
Totally.
So I'm interested to know what for you guys makes a good client.
Oh, well, I'll tell you what, the standards have been set high. I actually had a review up the road last year coming towards Christmas time. Arrived, bottle of whiskey, the biggest piece of smoked salmon that I've ever seen possible, and a lovely box of chocolates from them. So the tier has been set high.
My goodness.
That is what a good client is. No, I'm joking. It is really nice when you do get things like that. For example, I had a review recently, and actually, I want to put this on the record. Emma ate all the white chocolates when I had a nice client that came in with, was it Thornton's or Lindt? Or both?
Thornton's, but if it was Lindt, I would have eaten them all too.
Yeah. So that was it. The
White chocolate gone.
And it's funny, it was a woman that we've always got on okay, but I wasn't feeling the love, I'll put it that way. So when she came in and she had a lovely little handwritten note in the chocolates, it was
so
like,
nice.
oh, that was really nice actually. It was a really nice thing to do. But as I said, Emma ate all the white chocolate. Next
And
time,
you only noticed because you were right there behind
That's
me.
true,
She ate all the white chocolates.
Fair enough. Fair enough, I'll accept that. But no, listen, gifts aside, for me it's the mutual respect thing.
Mm-hmm.
It is the understanding of that we will do the best we possibly can for you. We want you to win. It's in our financial interest as well. But that respect back the other way. You know, that we're all humans, we're all trying our best, and we're on a business at the end of the day, and things take time. There's always costs associated with things, but as long as people can see the value of that, I think that's a great client. And someone I think that's really honest from the get-go of, here are my expectations, like, great. Do we think we can work together?
Mm-hmm.
But I think you only get that through a good, transparent conversation, and probably having a conversation the hard times, would you say, as well?
You do. I think a lot of the relationships just go to the next level when there is that really difficult time in the market, or a budget change, or a tax change. You know, that difficult conversation. I think we spoke about this back in our first podcast, that like you need to be open to that and walk towards those difficult conversations, not try and bury our heads in the sand with it. You know, it's funny. You know, definitely the same two-sided answer as Kieran, that a committed client, somebody that's going to be honest with you, somebody that wants to work together. You know, it's a relationship. Let's both go on this journey and achieve what we're looking to achieve, and that's the best clients that we can ask for. You know, those that are organized, those that, the one thing I always like to kind of say with clients is, like, if you expect a reply within 24 or 48 hours, I hope it's okay that I can do the same. Because sometimes I've been guilty of this, maybe when I've been dealing with, you know, buying a car or doing something else. You know, if I have very high standards and they don't, I get very frustrated. But if we both have the same level of standards, perfect. You know, quite a lot of our meetings are online in the office. Occasionally it'll be out at the person's house, and I'll always remember them. They're good family friends, actually. You get a tray of biscuits, home cookies made, you get your coffee poured for you. You think, that's what it's all about. I love this. Clients would take you out for lunch, bottles of whiskey, you know, like, joking aside, we don't expect or want any of that. But, you know, a perfect client relationship, it is just that one where actually looking at your meetings ahead for the week, and you're looking forward to seeing everybody. That's just such a pleasure.
Yeah.
I really liked what you said about, you know, you would always be in the client's corner. But I think what's lovely as well is, especially with everything we've been through this year with going independent, is the clients being in our corner.
Yeah.
And that mutual sort of two-way respect of being able to support each other. That's been cool. And we've seen a lot of that, but support from the clients this year.
That's been amazing.
And whether it's been client introductions or even just messages from had podcast episodes go live, say, good on you guys, I'm really enjoying it. I shared it with a friend, or even they said, I went out my way to speak to a friend or a colleague to say, you need to go in and speak to Welsh and Taylor because genuinely they can help you. And there's that positive advocacy.
Totally.
Listen, marketing's important. It's good to have your website and all that kind of things. But the best introduction are those from people that have used the service, that value it and say, these are the guys you need to
maybe
talk
that's
to.
the best client, the advocates. So. Yeah, they're
it is
cool.
big advocates, and there's many of those I can think of that go out their way. You know, I've told so and so they have to come and speak to you. You know, so and so is going to give you a phone next week because I want them. You know, I want them to receive what I'm getting. It's my brother, it's my sister, it's my family.
Yeah,
you know, I love that. And something else, actually, just before we finish up, I was thinking about was one of those client stories of, you know, you need to be adaptable. And it's quite funny, Kieran, you started with your father-in-law, because I'll close with my father. And I'll always remember he's working in Nigeria. He worked for Bristow's 40 odd years. I think they put his name on the side of a helicopter to celebrate his 40th anniversary.
That's cool.
So out in Nigeria somewhere, there's a Jim Welsh flying about. Jimbo flying about. But I'll always remember, you know, we put a plan in place for him, and I can't remember the exact ages, but it was basically in 3 or 4 years' time, you'll hit this goal. That's when you'll retire. And literally 3-4 weeks time, he texts me saying, that's it, I've handed my notice in. And that's going back to, I'm not a magician, what have you just done? But in Nigeria, he lived in the top floor apartment. And one night he was woken to like a crash sound. Oh, what's going on here? He looked to the side, and on the pillow was a smoking bullet.
Jesus.
And what had happened, I can only imagine, is somebody's like shot a gun up into the air, and what goes up does actually have to come down.
Yeah.
So right through the roof of the apartment, ricocheted off of this side of him, off the unit that was at the side of him. So there's a divot in there, landed on the pillow, still hot to touch. And that was, I think, he was going, there was some changes going on in the company as well, but I think that was the final bullet, if you say that just made him think, that's it, I'm done. Martin, I've put my notice in, this is my last trip. And I remember thinking, oocha, the pressure is on. The pressure is on, I wouldn't want to fail any client, but my own father, of course, so he's been happily retired for a number of years now, and he still has that bullet as a wee token. He kept the token, the bullet there.
Jeez, what a guy. We love Jimbo.
What a retirement gift, eh?
I know.
A stray bullet, my God. There you go. Well, what a place to end. What a story to end on. So thank you very much for that, folks. I really appreciate you joining me once more. Folks, I hope we're able to give you a wee lift there, a wee positive uplift. As I said, the news can generally be pretty doom and gloom at the moment. So if we can tell some good feel stories of the value that we can add and what advice can do for you, great, and all the better. If there's any other topics you'd love to hear about, please let us know. You can message us on welshintothewealth.co.uk or reach out to any of us on LinkedIn. Have a great day and take care of yourself.